Yeah, I do that with all my clients. Ever since the pandemic hit, I became a Zoom freak, and it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Good point. Good point. So have you like done much with astrology ever?
I had an ex-girlfriend that was huge on astrology. In fact, I don't want to tell you too much, but she is all about astrology, and so whenever I talk with her, I start thinking about it. I mean, I'm all about it. I believe that we are more than just the flesh and bones that we see and hear.
Yeah.
The universe is so vast, and I loved what your partner was saying the other day on Saturday about the stars in the sky can kind of line up over here. And you if you watch Men in Black, the first one, you know how it ends, right?
Yep. Yep.
It's
Exactly. Exactly. So I mean, like this is, I don't know. I love this, because to me, I'm every day I wake up and I get to like I get to play with synchronicities of the universe. And so there's like a daily reminder of all the spiritual stuff that I've studied and read. It's one thing to know about it, but it's another thing to actually experience it, and I get to do that on a daily basis. And so, when I looked at your chart, there's a couple of things that jump out right away. And
I'm gonna take notes. I'm not
yeah,
being annoying, like disrespectful.
a
Okay,
couple of the
cool.
things that jump out right away. And for a symbol system to be useful, um, anything that jumps out of the chart right away should there should be a symbolic resonance in the person's in your life. Okay. And so let's see if I can point to the many things that really jumped out. I'd say the first thing is the moon right here. Okay.
Okay.
The moon in astrology is it's a satellite. The astronomers say it's a satellite, but for the astrologers, we call it a planet. And so the astrological perspective is geocentric, meaning it's not heliocentric. It's not from looking at the universe from the sun. It's a empirical system based on observation of people on Earth. And so from an astrological point of view, the moon is a planet. Planet comes from the Greek word wanderer. Against the backdrop of the fixed stars, our ancestors noticed that certain lights in the sky moved against that backdrop. And so they were labeled wanderers or planets. And they were really the prime archetypal, symbolic, energetic movers in the universe. And so the reflection is they represent those prime psychodynamic movers inside of each of our psyches, right? It's not a coincidence that the planets are named after Roman deities. They're embodied, right? And so it's psychologically speaking, they manifest in us as urges, urges that arise in us that seek to express themselves. Okay. And they will express themselves consciously, or they will express themselves unconsciously. Okay. That's where free will comes in. But an astrological chart gives us information about, how are these energies attempting to express themselves so that we can be more aware. Okay. And so the moon, these symbols, right? There's 10 planets, and they need to represent everything in the universe. So these are big buckets. Okay. And the moon is a prime, one of the prime symbols, right? The sun and the moon. Okay. So much art, right? We see it all through, even in cave paintings, right? The sun and the moon have always carried this huge symbolic meaning for us, the primal parents, right? The feminine and the masculine. Okay. And so the same way inside of us, okay, the sun and the moon, these are the luminaries. Okay. The sun rules, more of our outer identity, our personality. The moon, more of our inner, more reflective side. Okay.
Okay.
Inner, more reflective side, our sensitive side. Okay. So the moon, is our sensitivity. Okay. The moon is our sensitivity. And the sensitivity on a personal level, yeah, is our sensitivity to our own feelings. Okay. In the sense, the moon will give us an indication of our mood, right? What is your mood averaged over a lifetime? Right. This is moon. Okay. But also, a big part of the moon is how we heal, how we heal. Right. You have to feel it to heal it. Yeah, that's my new saying.
I
And
like that.
yeah,
Gotta feel it to heal it.
you got to feel it to do it, right? Because if and the moon is the part of us that's the cultural myth, right? That we've been handed down is the moon is the part of us that's a wimp, right? The part of us that's sensitive. Okay, sensitivity needs to protect itself. Okay, and so we all have a part of us that we feel sensitive. We all have this experience of being really sensitive to certain things. Okay, and this sensitivity is an inner sensitivity. Okay. And so the moon is also connected to family, because it's these people that are literally our family are also people to us that feel like family. Those are the people that we usually feel safe enough around to reveal our moon to reveal this part of ourselves to. Okay. And so the moon is our sensitivity, and moon issues in our life is how do we deal with our sensitivity. Okay. And also it that directly relates to our closest interpersonal relationships, because the quality of those relationships is going to be it's going to be tied to how we're dealing with our feelings, right? If we're dealing with our feelings well, we can find a way to be nurtured by the people around us. If we're struggling with our feelings, it tends to show up and we don't feel nurtured or taken care of, or we sometimes feel crazy around our family. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I say this because this, I said what jumps out, right? So this point in the chart is called the ascendant, right? Or people will call it the rising sign. And next to the sun and the moon, it's probably the next most powerful symbol, because it represents how we approach life, how we approach the world. Okay. And so the moon, right? Another word I use to describe the moon is our heart. Okay, our heart. Okay. The meaning the part of us that feels. Okay. And so how we approach the world, right? Moon in the first. You approach the world with your heart forward. Okay. Right. All right. So, I mean, already, right? Someone who leads with sensitivity. Okay.
That's me.
Yeah. One of the things about the moon is the moon, the moon is our sensitivity, and sensitivity must protect itself. Okay. So issues of how much to reveal, how much to keep, to hide, to protect, to keep safe.
Yeah.
And then that timing of when is it safe enough to reveal these deeper parts of myself? Okay.
April Fool's Day and Halloween.
Yes. There you go. Exactly. All right. So where this begins, because so already the moon on the ascendant, okay, from an evolutionary perspective, okay, it means you're learning to lead with your heart, right? But in order to do that effectively, right, you have to figure out the whole sensitivity, right? When to open, when to close, right?
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean that's I'm a Pisces, so I'm a new age Renaissance man. And so, I don't wear my heart on my sleeve. I wear it on my chest. I just open right up.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you live by the sword, die by the sword. And straight up, I think it's gotten me more success than it has failure. But at times, especially this past year or two, it's been challenging because I want to be real. I want to be super freaking real. But some people, don't respect real. They just want everyone to go through these fake motions, and just live in whoop, 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 the robot machine. And so I have to be careful how real I am with people, because I come off as overwhelming when I'm just a gregarious dude that just is peaceful and just wants to share love with the universe.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna call a little bit of bullshit, but after after a really big pat on the back, it said honestly, like most of that is checks out astrologically, but there's a little sliver of BS. Okay, and let me see if I can get to it. It's that yes, fifth house Pisces, Sun. Okay, you are here to share this kind of joy. It's definitely okay, but right, but this idea of, so I grew up in a very Christian family. Okay. And the one story that I really like struggled with was I didn't understand why Jesus, after suffering on the cross, why he went to hell for a couple of days before he went to heaven, you know? And this, this Renaissance man, this Pisces is, is really can represent like heaven, this kind of, where where it all makes sense, right? We see how all the dots are connected, right? Where there is nothing to worry about. There is, right? The universe has our back. Okay. This is right. And to fifth house is about creative self-expression. So to spontaneously express this into the world. Okay. But right, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Okay. And this is what you're referring to as far as the truth, the honesty. Okay. Because I didn't get to this yet. This moon is in Scorpio. Okay. The evolutionary aim of Scorpio is perfect honesty. Okay. Perfect honesty. Because you truly can't soar to the heavens if you don't deal with your shit, right? If you're not willing to like really deal with everything that's happened to you and everything that you've done, usually because of what's happened to you, if you can't find peace and come to terms with that, you don't get the reward of being able to go to that next level.
Oh, totally understood. This past year, it's been the best year of my life. It's also been the worst year of my life. And so I will concur with that 100%. I mean, as honest as I do my best to be, I'm still not showing all my cards yet, because much like you, like, I'm a freak of the universe. I'm very different, and people can interpret my weirdness, my quirkiness in many different ways. And so I hide my inner ego because of the fact sometimes that I'm afraid of judgment. But this past year, I've had some health issues a couple of years ago, which is why I left Apple last year, because I figured if I'm going to die on my own terms.
Yeah.
And so, I actually lived more by quote unquote killing myself at Apple. Everyone's like, you're crazy. I just got this promotion where I travel around to all the new stores and help them set up the big screens. And I train the trainers. I went to the mothership and I had this most life-changing experience over there. So like everyone thinks like you're crazy leaving Apple. It's a great company. But I'm like, you know what? You just don't know Johnny then, because I feel that I can be greater. Not that I'm going to be a Fortune 500 company like that, but my contributions are suffocated when I'm in a company of 50,000, 100,000, because the best ideas don't always rise to the top. Apple and their ingenuity, I feel, has become sterile. They're just spoon feeding technology. The days of the people wearing like flannel and playing sand beach ball, like, and really including all the ideas is not as consistent ever since Steve Jobs left.
Interesting. Okay, so what can you see the chart on the screen?
Yeah, it changed. So it was different before. It had all the blue triangles. Now we're on. Are we on sun now?
Yeah. So no. Well, so what I'm showing you is so on the inside is your chart. So this is where the planets were at time and place of your birth.
Okay,
On the outside are where the planets are right now. Okay.
So real quick question, just so I get clarity. So before there was a bunch of blue like triangles on the inside.
So yeah. So this is the natal chart. Okay. These blue triangles. We're gonna get to these blue triangles. Look at you. So this is showing the planets where they were when you were born. And so our frame of reference is the relationships between the planets at themselves, time and place of your birth. Okay. And then as we look at this, now these lines change because we're looking at the relationship between where the planets are right now and where they were when you were born.
So I'm not, no disrespect to what you're doing there. I'm a thinker, so I just like to verbalize. So it seems like my feng shui of my life is out of order, because my goal, I would think, to be is get those realigned to the triangles. Right?
Well, we'll get to that. It's I mean, these triangles are going to be a big part of this conversation.
Cool. Okay.
That's actually next on the list of something that I've never seen before.
I love you platonically, right? Like,
yes.
I've met you a couple times, and every time I've met you, like you speak #truth. Like you're one of the realest people. I said this to you like when I was texting a couple weeks ago with you. You're one of the realest people I met. and you dance to the beat of a different drummer, and that's why I respect you so much, because of the fact that you're just not just doing stuff because you're just doing it. You're doing it because you actually have a genuine passion for it, but you're playing with the universe. You're exploring, and I think that's ultimately, what we're here to be. And I think too many people get caught in the machine. So I
Yeah.
said,
No, this is all, I mean, this is all quite, it's all quite beautiful, really. And I mean, I just want to show you this. Okay. So I didn't get the whole quote. You said, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die on
my own terms.
On my own terms. Oh, one word out. Okay. So if I, if you hadn't said that, and I was talking about a moon in Scorpio, okay? Because so Scorpio is about truth, right? In Scorpio, now we're moving into signs, okay? I talked about the moon as a planet. Planets are these urges, these personal archetypal urges that arise in us. And they really give us information about our unique path, okay? And so the moon in the first is saying quite specifically, your unique path, because the ascendant is our path in life, your unique path in approaching life is a path of the heart, okay? Is a path of the heart, okay? But here's where it gets interesting, right? Now the signs tell us what kind of path of the heart, okay? The signs give us the flavor, right? They give us the archetypal field that this nurturing journey, this path of the heart is the flavor it's gonna take, okay? And Scorpio rules death, okay? Scorpio rules death. It rules other things. Scorpio rules these uncomfortable truths, okay? That if we face them, okay, we step into this greater sense of empowerment, okay? If we don't face them, it tends to be the shadow of our lives, and it's like these scorpionic, things, they always exist underneath the surface, and there are deepest wounds, right, that exist underneath the surface. And sometimes we come into times in our lives where Scorpio stuff is being activated, Pluto is doing something in the chart, and those wounds that are underneath the surface get triggered and they rise to the surface, okay? And these are interesting moments because in one sense, they're moments where we can heal, right? And they're special moments because the stuff that's under the surface, we don't always have access to it. But when we do have access to it, it's like we can clean out the closet. And when we do, we feel more vitalized because it takes so much energy to keep these things buried. So when we get to these opportunities where we can release them, it's that why Jesus went to hell, right? And then we release those things, and there's a natural buoyancy, right? And we naturally rise, okay? And we're energized, okay? And so when this energy is strongly activated in the chart, right? And it is for you, the moon, you're a double Scorpio, okay? Yes, you're a Pisces and you're a double Scorpio, okay? A lot of water here, but let's stay here. So this is saying that you're here to become one of those people, right? To become one of those people, right? That others, when they're going through really difficult, dark times, when they're wrestling with their wounds and their shame, right? That they can come to you and put those things out there. And in that process, right, they can heal, right? Because when the wound comes up, usually these wounds occurred with us and another person. And a lot of the times the healing requires us to be able to show our shame, to put these things out there in front of someone who's not going to judge us. And why? Because they've contacted those parts of themselves and they've made peace with those parts of themselves, okay?
Do you remember what you said the first time you saw me? Well, okay, so we were doing, you were teaching us the bars class, pod and pock, all nine, the boys and all that good stuff, right? And then we started doing healing. And Tara, you know Tara Tagliagetti? Yep. So she was my partner. Yeah. And I was doing some healing with her. And you came over, you go, wow, you're a very powerful healer. He said something to that effect, you're meant to heal. Yeah. And so it's even though you didn't do astrology so deep back then, you could recognize. And I get goosebumps thinking of this right now.
I mean, this is the moon is the healer, and you just like that's speaking exactly to this energy of this moon in the first house in Scorpio. Like, you're here to be, this is the shaman. This is the path of the heart, but the path of the shaman, right? And
And
so
it shows how like intuitive you are. Like even before diving deeper into the astrology, you could sense right off the bat. So hashtag respect again.
yeah, yeah. I mean, well, there's I'll show you other stuff that'll help it make sense. This is just so fascinating. Okay, so the significance here is the natal chart. So the inner chart is about what you're working on in this lifetime. Okay, and so it's not as much descriptive as it's prescriptive, right? It's saying, right, that you're going to be sensitive to the things that scare most people. Okay, and on one level, that's something you have to learn to deal with. On a higher level, right, once you learn to deal with it, you realize that you learn to deal with it for a reason, right? What is this for? Okay, and it's healing. Okay, but in order to do this kind of healing energy, right, what is the wound? Right, the wound is all the times you've been told that you're too intense, that you're too dark, that you're like all of the times you've been shamed for being sensitive to the things that we're all trained to avoid. Okay, right. But if when you can realize that actually all of those experiences are training you so that you can fulfill what you're here to do. Okay, and it's this healing, lead this healing shaman energy. It's very powerful. And right, and I think doing it with, I mean, this is a side note, fifth house Pisces sun, doing it with comedy, right? Doing it with
Yes.
comedy. Yeah.
When when you're done giving me this whole thing, if the stuff I'm going to tell you is going to blow your mind, because like it's you're hitting all the different points in my head. I feel like I'm getting acupuncture to my brain right now. It
Yeah,
feels nice.
yeah, yeah. That's very much okay. But I'm just getting started. Okay, so you see right here, okay, the planet Uranus, right? The planet Uranus, all right, is at 8 degrees Taurus. Okay, and this red line that connects to the moon we call that an opposition. Okay, and so when planets where they are now interact with where planets were when we're born, it represents this time of development. Okay, and then the nature of the planet that's moving tells us what part of you is being developed. Okay, and then the planet that it's contacting, it also tells you another part of you that's being developed. Okay, and so Uranus it's the planet. So again, planet represents urges. This is the urge to individuate. Okay, this is the urge to become who you truly are. Okay, and part of that process is exactly what you described. It's because the Uranus is about our ability to dissociate. Okay, and most people think of dissociation as a negative thing. I'm saying this is a human urge that sometimes, if we get too entangled into something and we can't see it objectively, okay, right? Then we get stuck. If we can separate ourselves from something and look at it from the outside, we can dissociate ourselves and look at it objectively, right? We can see things more clearly. Okay, we can see things more clearly. And so Uranus, what Uranus is getting us to see more clearly is ourselves, right? What are we here to do? And part of that process of seeing that ourselves more clearly is we have to separate everything that we've been conditioned or trained to be. And so Uranus on one level is the planet of our genius, right? And genius meaning, what is my unique way of perceiving the world? So this is the planet of our weirdness, our uniqueness, our genius, our rebelliousness, right? In a positive sense, it's where we rebel against the bullshit training we received. In a negative sense, if we don't have the courage to push back against that training, then we rebel in useless ways that typically get us in trouble. Okay, this is the drama that shows up when Uranus is triggering something in our chart. Okay, and what it's triggering for you is this moon, right? And so all of these, the wounds, right, that I talked about earlier, of where you've been shamed for your sensitivity to this shaman energy, right? It's time right now to take a step back and to question, where have I been shamed, right? Because what the universe is saying, it's right now, it's time for your rebellious heart to shine. Okay. And so this is the individuation of your heart. Okay, the individuation of your heart. Right? How do I really feel? Right? And part of that is going to be sorting through where have I been shamed for feeling what I actually feel? Okay, because where your heart is, what you feel is all of the things that we're trained to feel ashamed about. Okay, all of the things, and it's time to question. It's time to question all of those, right? In my sense, is this is happening in the seventh house. So, and it's right which is the house of relationships. Okay, no, no,
I'm
no,
laughing. I'm laughing because it's like I feel like everything I've been thinking for the past couple weeks is really starting to come to a head, and I started questioning things. What's man-made?
yes,
God.
yes,
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 yes.
yes.
God gives us the 10 commandments, but I don't know if you know this. God gave us actually 11 commandments.
Yeah,
So so when he took Moses up on the hill, he goes, Moses, things are pretty chaotic down there. God's pretty cool dude. I don't know if you know him. So
yeah.
he's like, yo, Moses, things are pretty chaotic down there. You got to tell everyone to be cool. That's my commandment. Tell everyone to be cool. He's like, what do you mean? Do we need to get ice for them, God? No, no. Just tell them to cool up. And Moses is like, what do you mean? Like, do we need to get them in? No. Okay. Let me paint it for you. Give me 10 things. And that's where the 10 commandments came from. But it's
Yeah.
really one commandment. Be cool, bro.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. So so there's a relationship. Okay, so this is it's powerful. Okay, so the seventh house is the house of the other. It's a house of relationship. So what it's saying is, the major way this individuating rebellious influence is going to show up in your life is through other people. Okay, it's through other people. And so the advice is like, watch out, people that march to the beat of a different drummer are showing up in your life, and they're here to free your heart, right? They're here to free your heart from that prison. Because again, Uranus is where we break free, right? Where we break free, right? In the prison of any bullshit shame, okay? Right? And so part of this narrative is the seventh house, relationships. Okay, so this work is going to show up in relationships. But the 8 degrees Taurus, your Venus. Okay, 7 degrees Aquarius, right? Venus is the planet of relationship. So this Uranus is in the house of relationship, looking at affecting the planet of relationship, the planets of relationship. Because I told you again, the moon, because it's our heart, it does rule the people that we're closest to, the people that we feel safe sharing our heart around, and for you, the lesson is clear, right? Don't open your heart to people who've shown you that they can't go there. Okay, they can't go there, and that's part of you nurturing yourself. Okay, right? But here's the image that I see, right? Is you're around someone and you're trying to figure this out, okay? And you have that one joke, right? That one joke, right? That it's good and it's like sly enough and on the surface enough that people will laugh, but it's deep enough that you can really gauge if people can go there, right? And it's like you throw that one out there, and if you can tell people recoil, then okay, like, all right, we don't have any work to do with each other, right? If they laugh and they get it, and you see they're willing to go there, that's a sign to you, right? This is a person that I can open my heart to, right? This is someone that can appreciate what I have to offer, all right? And I mean, this is Uranus, right? Of where. Right, what you think of me, is none of my business, and I find it amusing. Okay, but we only have the confidence to do that when we found our people, when we found the people that we can be our unique, crazy self, and they laugh and they get the joke. We have that confidence, then we can recognize these are my people. All right, you do your thing, right? You do your thing, I'll do my thing, right? This is Uranus. Okay, this is the Uranian urge. And it's up, right? And so this is really about questioning your training around relationships, questioning your training around sexuality, right? Because another Taurus is ruled by Venus. This is about what is natural, right? And everyone on the planet is experiencing Uranus moving through Taurus, where we're all questioning. In general, we're all questioning what is natural, what is not natural, okay? For you, it's opposing the moon. So these questions, and Venus, these questions are going to the core of your sexuality. Okay, that's obvious. Okay, that's obvious, right? And so again, people showing up in your life, right? Are they deep enough? That's a big question, right? Find out right away, right? Can they think for themselves? Okay, that's the other big question. Venus, okay, your Venus in the chart tells us who our natural partners are, who are the people that we're going to have the greatest connection with, the greatest vibes with. What are we like? This is what Venus tells us, right? It's the people, the things, the art we appreciate. It's all of these things, right? Another thing that Venus tells us, how do we calm down, right? When we're around things that feel good to us that we like, we're more calm, all right? Venus in Aquarius, okay? It's funny, you know, you mentioned a girlfriend into astrology, right? Aquarius is the sign of astrology. Venus is the sign of the kinds of people we'll be attracted to. My advice to you, right? People that are into astrology, probably you're going to get along with, right? Because you know that on a certain level, they can think for themselves, right? And for you, again, if people are deep enough and people can think for themselves, if you're talking to someone and you see that they're a sheep and they haven't evolved to the place where they have the ability to think for themselves, they can't give you anything, right? Again, nothing against them, but to recognize right away, okay, we have no work to do here. Okay, we have no work to do here, right? And in a positive sense, right? Seek out people who, and you're doing it now. And I'll show you something that's really cool. Seek out people where there's like-mindedness. Okay.
Well, so you sprung me into something. You've always been my my North Star, believe it or not. So you did this astrology thing a couple weeks ago on Clubhouse, and I couldn't get in because I wasn't a member of Clubhouse at the time. I was like, damn. But then I got into Clubhouse, and by getting into Clubhouse, all these doorways opened up. So you were the catalyst, and you opened up all these doorways. I now run a free live music club on Thursday nights, and I'm starting to do some web stuff. But the people I met, I was laying in bed one night, and I was really depressed, and I could have just sat there and just drank beers and went to bed. I was really, I got in the car, put Clubhouse on, and drove to get gas. I made these friends with these two girls that changed my life. They did a tarot card reading that blew my mind. And yeah. It's kind of like what you're saying right now. It's like I get the goosebumps again. It's like right direction. It's like, just keep going, follow the path.
Yeah, that's exactly what Uranus times are. So here's what I'm showing you. Okay, so right now on the inside is your chart. On the outside is not where the planets are now. This is my chart. Okay, this is my chart on the outside. Okay, and so what we see is my Uranus, right? So my, going to the beat of a different drummer, 8 degrees is right on top of your moon. Okay, so this is saying one of my roles that I'm playing in your life, whether we like it or not, is freeing that moon, right? Giving you permission to delete, right? That's okay.
And that story I just told is a testament to that, because you were on Clubhouse, I went to go seek out Clubhouse, and then all of a sudden, boom, now I'm on Clubhouse, and all these life-changing events have happened.
Yeah, right. And also, right, so this Uranus that's here now, right, is, you can see that I'm one of the people that's representing that, because my Mercury, right, the words that come out of my mouth, I'm a very mercurial kind of guy, right? And so just naturally, when I speak, there's a natural resonance to your heart, okay? There's a natural resonance, especially when I'm being true to myself. When I'm speaking my truth, it's going to resonate with your heart, okay?
So what is Mercury known for?
So Mercury, okay, good question. So Mercury is the planet of perception, okay? Perception, right? So you can think of Mercury representing the 5 senses and the mind.
Well, so that's a funny thing. What else is possible? How does it get any better than this?
Question. Exactly. Mercury is a planet of questions. Exactly. Yes, there you go. So Gary Douglas, Dane, and myself, all 3 of us are Geminis. We're all born the first day of Gemini, May 21st, May 22nd, all of us, okay? And Mercury is the planet associated with Gemini. So, yes, this is so cool. So yeah, and so let's talk about your Mercury, okay? So, it's the idea of perception, right? And I think we're all trained by our parents by the world, not just our parents, but we're all trained by the world to see things a certain way, okay? And one of the things we talk about a lot in Access is your point of view creates your reality. This is Mercury. This is Mercury, 3rd house, Gemini, okay?
Your point of view creates your reality.
Yeah. This is Mercury. Is the way you see the world is the way, and so if you're seeing the world, if the point of view that you're seeing the world through is other people's points of view, right, then the reality you create is not really going to be your reality. And that's why we have these things in life where, you know, we don't, what we think should happen doesn't happen. Okay, what we think should happen doesn't happen. Right? This is an error of perception. Okay, error of perception. And so part of perception, obviously, is we see things, and part of it is we think about things. So Mercury has to do with the way that we think. Okay, but keep in mind, it's the root is perception, because what we think about is based on the raw data that we take in. Okay, which is what we perceive. Then we think about it, and then the other part of Mercury is how we communicate, right? Because we perceive something, it's the fodder that we use to think about it, and then it becomes the source of what we communicate. And so I think of Mercury energy, third house, Gemini energy, as representing, we see something and it excites us so much that we have to share it. We have to share it. Okay?
Yes.
This is, yeah.
Now, the fact that Gemini is there, does that mean that we see both sides of the coin better?
That's Libra. That's Libra Venus. Okay. But it's air symbolism. So it's in that same family. It's in the same family. But Gemini is primal air. So it's the fact that we can observe. So if Gemini, the symbol here is the two pillars, okay? And Gemini is our ability, it's air. So it's similar to what I said about Aquarius, Uranus, is that it's our ability to dissociate. And so Gemini is like it represents leaving the garden, right? Because Taurus, fixed earth, is the Garden of Eden. But
wait, say that again.
So before the order of the signs has a significance, right? Is because all of the planets, when they move through the signs, they move in, the signs are in the same order. So it represents the natural unfoldment of all cycles, okay? And so like Aries is where we start. And Aries is this energy that, it's the initiatory energy that gets things going, right? It's that raw force to move forward, okay? And so this is associated with the first house. That's why I said with the moon in the first, you're leading, right? You're moving forward with your heart, right? With the heart of the shaman, right? So this is this forward moving energy. Then the next sign is Taurus, and that's really about stabilizing, right? Once we move forward and we have things going, we need to get our bearings. And so it's this like, we need to find the status quo, right? So once we start something, we can't stay in that just forward moving process all the time. We have to stabilize and get our bearings, okay? And so that symbolism is resonant with the imagery of the Garden of Eden, right? Where there's peace, right? It's early, it's still raw, right? And then once you bite the apple, right, you lose that sense of oneness, okay? And now you see things, you see the many things, okay? And so that there's confusion in that, but there's also the potentiality for consciousness, okay? And so like speech, right? Once we can name something, then we can see that it's different. If we don't have a name for something, we often can't even perceive it, okay? So this is really what Gemini represents at its core.
So that it goes Aries, then into Taurus, then to Gemini.
Yes, yeah. And so Gemini in your chart is charged. It's in a positive way. Like this symbol, so this is Gemini up here. This symbol right here is the south node of the moon, okay? The south node of the moon. And it represents where we've come from. It represents the past, right? And you could even, Cliff's notes, right? It's not always 100% accurate, but it gets us to the heart of it. As you can say, in a past life, you were a Gemini, okay? So it means what you've brought into this lifetime is Gemini energy. Okay, so you're a Pisces, right? But you're a Pisces who's coming from a Gemini place. Okay, and this is real, right? Because there's so many different kinds of Pisces, and what this says is you're a Pisces that is going to come into this world with a gift for speech, right? With this for lifetimes, right? You've been studying, you've been having these vast experiences. Gemini is a raw data, right? Raw data, okay? You've been collecting raw data, right? For a long time. So there's a lot of information, right? Born, because the South Node, where we've come from, it also points to where we have natural abilities, okay? Right, so just born with the natural ease of language. I would guess, because Mercury is the planet associated with Gemini, gives us more information. I would guess with your Mercury that you were born to, and I could be, to parents that were extremely intelligent, Okay. Because Mercury, our intelligence, is in the fourth house. And so the idea of you met Mercury, fourth house is home, our early environment. You met Mercury early in your environment. Okay. So usually probably one of the parents, but also it could be, this intelligent genius energy, but also because that Mercury is in Aquarius, Aquarius can be, the genius that's too much of a genius becomes the outcast. Okay. The outcast. Right. So, but this is the feel, right? That there's the way you think about the world, the way you see the world, right, is different from other people. Okay. And so part of your what you're working on in this lifetime is, again, first, how do I learn to deal with that? How do I learn to deal with the fact that I see the world is different from everyone else? More specifically, how do I learn to deal with the fact that the way I see the world is different from the way that my family sees the world? Right. How like coming to terms with that, right? In a positive sense, right? It gives, I talked about individuation. This is Uranus. It gives you the ability, someone who can master that has truly learned to think for themselves, right? Has truly learned to think for themselves, right? But someone who gets stuck in that drama, can get stuck with always compulsively coming up with an alternative perspective, right? A challenging perspective. Because when Aquarius goes dark, again, it's where we become rebellious without a cause, right? Rebellious without a cause, right? Because with all of the symbols, right, it's this spectrum of, there can be too much, there can be too little. So too much of Mercury in Aquarius is someone who thinks so far outside the box, they can't really connect or communicate to anyone. With anyone. Okay. And so imagine, and I'm not saying this is the case, but an example of this is with someone, maybe even someone who grew up in a family where the parents didn't even speak the same language, right?
That's my wife.
Yeah.
So my wife and I, when we first met, she didn't speak English and I didn't speak Spanish. I mean, I spoke it, but very little. And her native language is from Bolivia, Iramar.
Yeah. So the fourth house is the house of marriage. It's family, right? So again, this is an interesting example, right? But but on one sense, right, there's it's interesting. In one sense, there is a level of mental space, right? Right. I don't know if that makes sense, but there is.
It totally does, because we're nonchalant with our marriage. We might be getting a divorce. I don't know. Things are really crazy right now.
Yes.
But it's one of those things. I think she's just freaked out by me being this thinker person now, and I'm really leveling up. And she's like, "What the hell is going on?" And we've always had communication issues, just because when she first started dating me, she didn't speak English and I didn't really speak Spanish. But it was my heart that led us together, and I was just such a nice sweetheart to her. Like, I'd write songs, we'd take her out, I'd teach her how to ride bike, I taught her how to swim.
Yeah.
It was just this really nice companionship, and it wasn't until our kids were born that things got challenging, because she's been a nanny her whole life, and so she's very, she's very specific with her views on everything, and didn't didn't work a lot of things because she thought she was the mom. But it's like, wait, but I'm a dad and I see things differently, and I've been in this country. So that's interesting. Also, the other thing that you said was very interesting. My parents and I love them with all my heart, but it's been challenging because my dad is that Mercury figure. He is so demanding and everything. And I have to take gaps away from him because he has mentally beat me down throughout years because of the fact that he's so rigid with his thought process. He's not outside the box thinking. He's such a good guy. He's trying to do the right thing all the time, that sometimes the right thing isn't always the right thing.
Yeah.
By following the rules. And so I've had to detach. And last spring, when I detached, I went back to see him, and he said to me, "It's been like 3 months, 4 months." He's like, "Wow, you sound like a learned man,"
Yes.
Because the way I talked to him. And now I'm in this phase right now where I had to detach again because something else happened.
That's the Uranus. That's the Uranus opposing the moon, because the moon rules family. So the dissociation from family, right, and questioning these things. And so what you're talking about when I mentioned the Mercury in Aquarius. So when we look at a chart, we can't take anything in a vacuum. And so what I spoke on that you picked up on is the feeling like an outsider, the thinking differently. Okay, the part of the dad being a heart, it's related because Saturn. Okay, Saturn is the planet of typically they say Saturn in a chart rules the father, but what it rules is the authority figure, and usually that authority figure is the father. Okay, but it could also be the government. It's just this feeling of oppression of some kind of authority figure, and it's not always oppression. Sometimes there's a secure feeling, like I know that dad is around and that I don't have to bear the burden of the responsibility because there's an authority figure to do that. Okay, and so the significance here is this: the Saturn is right next to the South Node. Okay, and I talked about the South Node was you in the past, and I said in the past you were a learned man. Saturn is saying that because Saturn is about achievement and authority. You were in the past, you were an intellectual authority. Okay, right? This is where you've come from, but in this lifetime, okay, in this lifetime, right? It's like that who you were in the past, this intellectual authority, you projected that onto the father, because again, Saturn in the chart rules the authority figure, the father figure. And this is a classic aspect for people that have these kinds of what you described, these kinds of issues with their father. We see Saturn squaring the sun. Okay, we get a red line. This is a square. Okay, and it means cross purposes, right? Square means that these are cross purposes, and I think this is all the Saturn to some extent is also, I think, represented by your wife, because they're squaring this fifth house Pisces sun. Okay, like Pisces is really like let go and let God, right? It's really in it's the ability to laugh, to see the joke, to see the humor in life. Okay, this is what it is, and the fifth house is about spontaneous self-expression, right? So this is someone that is, excuse the term, is like flamingly a Renaissance man, right? Just unself-conscious about it, right? But Saturn is the planet of self-consciousness, right? It's I imagine like your raunchiest, funniest like stick, right? And your dad is right there in the middle of the audience, okay, right? Yeah, yeah, yes,
And
yes.
that's what's been going on. It's like I haven't really been able to be unapologetically me because I want to please my parents so much, but
Yeah.
I'm more so not being that because ultimately the cycle of life is the teacher teaches the student, but at some point the teacher needs to learn from the student so they can become a better teacher and a better person.
Yes.
And my father's communication is one direction. It's just because he feels that he needs to guide and shape and whatever, and I want him to relax. I want him to enjoy his later years of life and be like, yo, I got this, bro, give me the steering wheel.
Here's what I'm saying, right? Because this is interesting phenomenon. Like what you're describing as your father is your chart. Okay, is your chart. Okay, is your chart. And so it's projection, right? And like the shift here is, and this is the Saturn shift, okay, is for you to become your own authority figure, right? For you to become your own authority figure. So but the other thing that jumped out, back to the transits, okay? So the planet Neptune, okay? Neptune is our urge, Neptune rules Pisces. Neptune is associated with Pisces, okay? But again, planets are these urges. Neptune is our urge to let go, our urge to escape, our urge to reach for inspiration, our urge to receive a vision, okay? Right? And so I think of Neptune as the planet. Neptune wants us to go like this, okay? Wants us to go like this, all right? And if we're conscious of it, right, we wake up every morning with this gratitude for life, right? And we just, even if it's only for a moment, we look up and we just are like, thank you, okay? Thank you, right? Right. And this is good advice for all Pisces, okay? I would say to a certain extent all people, but not necessarily all Pisces, right? Even a brief moment like this in the morning, just and with fifth house Pisces, hopefully there's a little chuckle, right? There's a little chuckle, okay, regardless of what's going on, right? And you get wonderful news, you get bad news every morning still, right?
Am I a fifth house Pisces?
Yes, you are a fifth house Pisces, okay?
Oh man,
Yes.
that well, the chuckle is, I'm gonna let you finish doing your stuff because I can talk for hours.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
all this stuff is just very, very, very interestingly.
I'm
Uh,
telling you, I'm just getting started. So this Neptune, okay, and this is literally a once in a lifetime thing, okay, because Neptune takes 150 years to go around the chart, okay, and so when someone is having Neptune at the same degree as their sun, okay, Neptune right now is at 21 degrees Pisces, your sun 21 degrees Pisces, okay, we call this a Neptune conjunction, all right, and here's the significance of this, okay, again, we say Neptune rules Pisces. What it means is the urge that Neptune represents is represented in the cosmos by the sign Pisces. So they're the same archetypal field, right? So bringing this down psychologically, evolutionary is the sun is how we shine. Okay, again, it's not descriptive as much as it's prescriptive. Is you're here to become the mystic. Okay, this is a Pisces, right? Okay, right, and part of the mystic, right? Part of the narrative of the mystic is mystics sacrifice things, mystics let go of things, okay, and so one of the things that you have to figure out is what to let go of and what not to let go of, okay, right? Fifth house, the one thing to never let go of is your right to be yourself, okay, your right to creatively express yourself, okay. Also, the fifth house is the house of children, right? Your right to parent and have the relationship with your children, right? That expresses this energy, okay, right? This is a gift, right? How we shine, okay. All right. So this is in this lifetime. This is what you're learning to do, okay. The spiritualizing planet comes along and hits the sun. This is it's saying, right? Showtime, right? This is a major time in your life where because these outer planets are about transformation, and you have the sun and the moon, these two most vital parts of ourselves, both being triggered at the same time by these outer transformational planets.
it's okay. I have to use the restroom really quick. Uh, just like 3 seconds or 3 minutes. Is that okay? I have
Yeah.
to go to the bathroom. Okay, thank you. I'll be right back. Is a magical machine. Um, and one association I've had, and I don't know if I'm 100% right, but sometimes when I get a lot of information or stuff that I like negative stuff that I've processed, I need to urinate or go to the bathroom to get it out. That it's a very
That's
interesting.
Scorpio. That's Scorpio. Scorpio
Yes.
rule. That's Scorpio. How I
Yeah.
said, right? Stuff comes up, right, for us to heal it. That's Scorpio. Moon and
Yeah.
Scorpio on the first. That is extreme. That is very consistent. Wow, man, this is so. Here's the thing. Since you mentioned it, all right. There's a lot of symbolism in your chart that shows up when people that show up around people getting divorces. Okay. Right. And the main one is Uranus entering the seventh house and by itself and Uranus opposing the moon. Because again, we need to create space from family. And if our family unit and the Venus, our relationships, right? If your unit, if your wife, it's saying it loud and clear, like loud and clear. If she can support you being more you, right? It's going to be because you're claiming more space in the relationship and she appreciates it. If she can't, then the relationship needs to end. Okay? And again, the chart is saying that in so many different ways, okay? So many different ways. Because again, at the core of it, right? At the core of it, your ideal partners, right, are they stimulate your mind, okay? Venus is in the third house, okay? They stimulate your perceptions, right? I imagine you and your ideal partner are these conversations that after like this, right? I would consider myself your ideal partner, right? Literally, my planet of speech is in your house of relationship. Okay.
Well, you have a twin sister, right?
Yes, exactly.
Put up don'ts.
That's brilliant. But and again, I mean, I'm not for like marriage. It's just so loud in this chart that, and again, the story isn't divorce, but it's if, right? It's saying if you can't be yourself in that relationship, it needs to end. If it doesn't, there will start to be negative consequences of your health.
Well, that happened in the past. So, me not leaving Apple and me not confronting my wife about, hey, let's really analyze our relationship. I was the person that brought it up first, just because the fact that I'm giving so much, and it just she has she has a hard time letting go of the past and doesn't understand why I was a certain way, because she just didn't understand me. And now she's starting to understand me, but the damage is done. And I'm like, but you understand who I am, and she knows I could be awesome. But that I'm worried about, but I'm not worried about, because I have so many goosebumps. Like, I know what's gonna happen is
Yes.
meant to be what's gonna
Yes,
happen,
yes.
and I have to be, the
That's
and
it.
just,
So, okay. So, yes. So the Neptune over the sun is saying this, right? It's saying that the old you is gone, right? This is the imagery is the snake shedding its skin, and the snake sheds its skin so that it can become more of what it actually has the potential to become. Okay. And so this is a great time for meditation, ayahuasca, any kind of all dreaming, right? Dream journal, because the universe is creating art, right? Because this is one of the fifth house Pisces, this the creative, the visionary artist, right? And this idea is there's a blank canvas, whatever that canvas is, right? And you're sitting there waiting for a vision to come in. That vision comes in, right? This is a meditation for you, okay? And Neptune is saying, like, you need a vision now. Open yourself. It's saying this is the time, right? All of the other times in your life that you've come to this place, either willingly or you've been brought to this place, right? They've all preparing you for this one. They're all been preparing you for this one. Okay. And another symbol here. So this symbol is called progressions. Okay. And so the sun for you is about to progress in the seventh house. Okay. So it's saying then over the next year is really a coming out party for you. Okay. Because this line right here represents the horizon. And so it's saying your whole life, right? The sun has been underneath the horizon, and now it's coming out into the light over this next year, right? And so also coming out into the light, into the house of relationships, okay? And so it's saying, right, if this is but like relationships are going to take on a huge part of your life for the next 30 years, okay? Right. And so this idea of either allowing your current relationship to dissolve and become something different, or to allow it to release, so that this new relationship energy that's trying to come into your life has a channel to come into your life. Okay. And if your current relationship can hold this energy, great. If it can't, okay, it will end, consciously or not. This is the message, loud and clear. Okay, loud and clear, right? And to add to this message, okay, we see Venus, progressed Venus, the planet of relationship, on top of your sun. Okay, so the chart is screaming in so many different ways. Relationships are up right now. Okay. Another one, just to pile on to make sure the message is clear. Okay, the planet Pluto, and we've talked about the planet Pluto, right? When Pluto hits something in the chart, right, things that are buried, they're stirred and they rise to the surface. Okay, they're stirred and they rise to the surface. Pluto is at 26 degrees Capricorn. Your natal Uranus, the natal Uranus, is at 27, right? And so any kind of 12th house Uranian wounds being triggered to the surface. Okay, and this brings us to this 12th house Uranus. Okay, so the significance here, okay, I talked about Neptune and Pisces, right, that they're in the same family. Okay, to add to that family is the 12th house. Okay, so this family of symbols in your chart is highly activated in this lifetime, more specifically highly activated right now. Okay, all right, because the Neptune water symbol on top of the Pisces sun water symbol. Okay, and now we have your Uranus in the 12th house water symbol, triggered by Pluto, a water symbol. Okay, while the Uranus, right, the transiting Uranus opposing the moon, water symbol, in Scorpio, water symbol. Okay, so a lot of this, right, there is a lot going on right now. Okay, so
yes.
So Uranus. So Uranus. Okay. Uranus is, and we've talked about Uranus. Uranus is the urge to individuate, to free ourselves. Okay. But it's considered an outer planet. Outer planets, based on the speed at which they move. Okay. Uranus takes 7 years to move through a sign. So it says everyone born in the 7-year period had Uranus in the sign of Libra. Okay. Where Uranus becomes personalized to us is the house. Houses change every 2 hours. Again, Uranus by sign changes every 7 years. Okay. So as a cohort, right? Your generation, Uranus in Libra, okay? Uranus is individuate, okay? So your task of your cohort is to create individuation, right? Another way to say this is freeing humanity from the tyranny of the past, freeing humanity from the old way of doing things, okay? Right? And this is where our genius manifests in our life, where you see things a different way. We see how things can be done better, right? But often our way of seeing things better means we have to challenge the status quo. And this is one of the dramas, right, of Uranus. And again, you're in a Uranian time because it's hitting your moon, right? This in the moon is so vital. Family, how you feel, right? All of these things triggered, right? All of this is up. So Uranus in Libra. Libra is the planet of relationship, okay? So your cohort, right, is learning to show the world that the old way of doing relationships, right, don't work, right? And it's about having and trusting your own unique experience and ideas about how relationships could be, okay? How relationships could be, right? In the 12th house, is about endings, right? So one of the things that you're working on, right, is showing that there can be different ways to end relationships, okay, right, or different ways to come together in a spiritual sense, where because the idea of it's loss and relationship. So part of that is how relationships end. Part of that is how do we do spirituality together, right, as a couple, right? How do we do spirituality as a couple where we honor each other's individuality? These are the types of questions that that this Uranus in the 12th is here, and so Pluto triggering that, at a deep level, these questions and wounds around these are being stirred to come to the surface, right? Yeah. All right. So just briefly on these two triangles. Okay. So these triangles, and they're dark, thick triangles. That means they're powerful, right? And they are called grand trines, okay? Grand trines, right? And traditionally, if you read astrology books about grand trines, people rave about grand trines because it's saying that you have at least 3 planets that are all in the same element. And so they're all speaking the same language. And so they support each other. And so it creates usually people have a level of flow and ease because these 3 different urges inside of themselves are all speaking the same. They're all communicating with each other, supporting each other. Okay. Right.
Yeah. I'm laughing because all the stuff you're saying is something that I've conceptualized, and just now it's like I'm almost talking to my inner thoughts.
Yes. Yeah. But here's the shadow, the potential shadow side is it becomes kind of a closed circuit, right? Because the thing that's interesting is it's uncommon to have 2 grand trines in a chart, right? Like ancient astrologers would be like, they would predict, wonderful things in the life, right? With 2 grand trines. But it's even more rare to have 2 grand trines in the same element, right? So you have 2 air grand trines. So you have this trine at early air, so 7 degrees Gemini, 5 degrees Libra, and then the Venus at 7 degrees Aquarius. And then also in air, you have this late trine, all at 27 degrees. Mercury at 27 degrees Aquarius, Saturn at 27 degrees Gemini, and Uranus at 27 degrees Libra, okay? So the simple way of interpretation is that you have genius potential, okay? Genius potential, Okay. But the word potential is the word that needs to be underlined a lot because it's air, right? Air is like this, right? It's interesting, it's dynamic, it's, but it's up here. Okay. And if you look over here, it says Earth, 0. Okay. And so, you don't really have any Earth in your chart, right? Earth is about making things real, tangible. Okay. And so and this is again rare and something that jumps out. When someone doesn't have any Earth in their chart, a couple of things can happen. Okay. Either it becomes an inferior function, right? It's just something that they don't, like the way it would show up, and I only have one planet in air, so I have something very similar to this, is that practical concerns just don't matter. Okay. Because Earth is about our practical concerns about life, right? Like paying the bill, like all these practical things. Okay. And if there's no Earth in the chart, there's not any planets that are motivated by practical concerns. Okay.
That aligns. Yeah.
So in one sense, it can become an inferior function, right? In the other sense, it can become an over compensatory function. Okay. Meaning, let's say someone who grows up and they have no air, so none of the planets are motivated by air, but they grow up in a family that's, Earth, but they grow up in a family that's very earthy, right? A family, for instance, someone grows up in a very blue collar family and it's all about, work, save your money, all this stuff, right?
You're describing my family.
Yes.
My one brother's in the military, he's lieutenant colonel in the army. My
Yeah.
other brother's a firefighter in New York City. I mean, those are the dudes,
Yeah. I mean, those are more fiery professions, but still, there's some blue collar, like I go to work every day. And so a person who grows up in that family and feels the need to try to be like that family will overcompensate and might become an extremely earthy person, but it's not really who they are. Okay. These are two of the extremes, but the idea is that the Earth function is real, right? Obviously, we all have practical concerns and things that we need to take care of. Okay. But, but that motivation for you is not coming from inside, right? It's not coming from inside. It's going to come from outside, right? And so the idea of this Saturn, because Saturn is an earthy planet, right? It's about authority. This Saturn takes on, it's more interesting. It's more interesting because when we don't have an element, it's easy to project the element onto someone else. Okay. And so if there's not an earth element, but the society tells us that we should be more grounded, right? And we have a parent that's more grounded, we'll project all of that earth function onto that parent. All right.
Wait, so we project that onto the parent.
If we have, because right, because the thing is, when you look at a chart, there's all of the 12 signs are in your chart. So all of the 12 signs are in you, but the planets are what is from inside of me, what is dynamically activated. And so if there's no planets in Earth, there's not a natural internal drive to take care of earthly functions, right? So there's just it's not natural to consider, to some extent, right? Bodily concerns, okay? Bodily concerns, okay? Yeah. So, and again, I'm guilty. It's not even guilty because to me, in the blank spaces in the chart is really where the universe manifests. And so wherever we have a missing function or an inferior function, there tends to be a stronger expression of God, of universe energy, because where our planets are is where we kind of get in the way. Okay. But it's tricky when this unconscious energy manifests, because if we're not aware of it, it's so powerful, it tends to get us in trouble. Okay. And so personally for me, and there's other things in the chart that support this, but this gives for you, the moon in Scorpio would support what I'm about to say, and the sun in the 5th house, because the 5th house is creativity, but it's also sexual expression, right? It's sexual expression. And the moon in Scorpio needs, needs this deep, intimate contact. And usually when you're making contact on that deep, intimate level, it usually turns sexual, okay? It usually turns sexual. And so when there's missing earth function, there's the information about the body, food, sex, money, all that stuff is not readily available. And so it gets worked out. And so, you know, in my life, sensuality and sex has got me in trouble a lot, you know, because, you know, there's other things again in the chart, but it's where it gets into trouble is that missing function. And I don't mean that it's bad. It's just a learning process, right? It's a figuring out learning process where you don't have the internal kind of training mechanism. It's where you are like out in the wild and you kind of have to figure it out for yourself, right? But there is in that wildness, there is a level of freedom and power in it. You know, there's interesting stories of people with missing elements, like Beethoven had the water element missing, right? And he's created some of the most beautiful music ever, right? Because there was that, he didn't have a planet in water to get in the way, right? It was this pure flow that he had to experience and wrestle with.
And so you're saying with my lack of earth, that, you know, sometimes, you know, if I don't have that connection with I guess the Scorpio, that the intimacy that I need, it can derail my earthen tasks like paying bills and focusing on and thinking clearly about just, you know, taking care of myself.
I would say in general, in a positive projection sense, you know, is that if you were in a position to have a person in your life who's responsible for the earthy things, mm-hmm. Right? And not like it's to avoid it, but it's to consciously build a relationship with it, right? Like it would mean that you would attract a very earthy person, right? Kind of the rigidity that you were speaking about with your wife, right? That feels like that earthly rigidity, right? That if you don't consciously, it doesn't come naturally, but if you don't consciously attend to the earth, you're going to pull it in ways that don't feel good to you. And it's going to be massive ways that don't feel good to you.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So that makes sense. And then, because you know, the other thing that kind of resonates with me is every time I'm fully charged in a relationship, romantic relationship, like things are just miraculous in my life, you know. But when the love sputters and fails, then that's when like I'm like all over the place, like I'm like lost.
Okay, this is what you just described as fifth house Pisces sun. So one of the elements of the fifth house is love affairs, okay? And so the fifth house, from a metaphysical point of view, it means fifth house, you're meeting people who you've known in the past. You're meeting people who you've known in the past. And so it's that feeling you get when you were, you know, we call it falling in love, you just referred to, but when you first meet someone, and maybe it's not the first time you meet, but within 3 or 4 times of hanging out, it feels like, I feel like we've known each other, right? And there's this ease and laughter and flow, this in love feeling, okay? Yeah. Right? This is a fifth house. This is what you're here to experience, okay? But right, in Pisces, right, it's easy to get lost, right? To get lost here. In a positive sense, right? We transcend when we're in this state, right? Things make more sense to us in this state, okay? But also the fantasy, if we get caught in the fantasy of it, then it can turn into this confusion, okay? So the fantasy of the fifth house is that we're supposed to stay in this state all of the time, okay? Right? That's the fantasy. The reality of it is it's possible to continuously cultivate this state, but in order to do that, right? Eighth house, we have to do the difficult work. Okay, we have to do the difficult work, right? Is that we maintain this playful, spacious space between us and this love feeling, right? Because we have the difficult conversations when we need to have them, okay? So that sums it up. Mars in the 8th in Gemini, right? You're learning to have difficult conversations. Saturn in the 8th in Gemini, you're learning to have difficult conversations, okay? This is like, but both of these planets are the planets of difficulty. Mars is difficulty because it's hot, right? It's uncomfortable, it hurts, right? It's acute, right? Right? It's anger, right? These kinds of difficult conversations, right? And Saturn is difficult because it takes a long time, right? It takes a long time to unwind and unpack all of this stuff. But if we do it, it'll be worth it because we can maintain this love, this openness, this kinds of feeling. And so to sum it up, it's really about for you to be content, and specifically in relationships, right? You have to cultivate this environment where it's okay to talk about anything.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm realizing. I mean, there's so much symbolism to what I've been cultivating over the past 47 years. You were saying before about this is my coming out year. This is, the rising sun.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and I had actually asked you to appear on one of my songs back when we met, and that offer still might be open if you're interested to it. It's the first track. The first track is, I call it Binary Birth, and it's about the coming of existence, the Big Bang, and then everything fast forwarding to right this moment. I actually, since I told you that I wanted you to speak on it, I didn't have anything written. I've written what I have spoken, and I've read it myself a couple times. But I think because you
send it
are
over. Send it
this,
over.
yeah. So look at this. Look at my logo for my musical persona.
Wow. Yeah.
So
it's the time.
So my musical persona is the Soul Pilot, and I refer to myself as Johnny, the artist currently known as the Soul Pilot, for two reasons. First off, I'm a big Prince fan, and who knows who might own this one day, right? So I'm Johnny, the artist currently known as the Soul Pilot. But also, if you're familiar with DC Comics, the Green Lantern Corps,
Yep.
I'm a firm believer that our imagination and willpower drives this universe, and I feel that maybe I'm the start of this musical persona, the Soul Pilot, but I don't want to become like this guy that's on stage that's forced into my music just for make money. I want it to be a life and a celebratory experience when people come and play, and it's organic. And so I could step down, and someone else could take over the role of the Soul Pilot and do it their way.
No. First house, Scorpio moon. That's almost the definition of the Soul Pilot. The moon is the soul. First house, in charge, leadership, Soul Pilot. So this is shaman, and this is like the shaman that puts everyone into a trance. So the sun in the fifth house, your music needs to be transcendent.
Oh, I mean, the lyrics, I mean, I all of the stuff I've been writing is about this awakening within me, and me not understanding. Before the pandemic hit, a month and a half. Well, I guess I wrote the song in January of last year, and the song is called "Raining Fire," and it all talks about what kind of really happened. It to some degree that I know things can be much different if we just took the time, but time is a human construct that has made us blind, and now it's raining fire.
Yeah. So this Neptune going over your fit, like this creative self-expression, like the universe has a message for the world, and right now it wants to use you to be able to do that. But part of your job, right, is getting over the wound, the self-consciousness about putting your truth out there.
Yeah, well,
right, and what's going to facilitate this, not only now but for the rest of your life, is relationships that empower you to do just that.
Wow. I mean, yeah, no, I mean, listen, you are so amazing at everything you freaking do, dude. Like, no, seriously. Like, I've analyzed you with everything you've done, and you've been methodical and very determined on what you're doing. And I mean, with your healing and stuff like that, like you're playing with the universe. You're like my shaman. You're showing me the way. Like, I lived through you vicariously when you went to hang out with Lenny Kravitz and say, screw this. My opinion was when Dave Wanstead said, I'm going to run Ricky 50 times if I need to, you said, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And you took off because you weren't a machine. You were an artist on the field. And you said something about, the way that Jim Brown, when he spoke to you, told you, hey, the only way to play, the running back is to be offensive. And you would go out there with the one hand out there, not be afraid to take on the defenders. And then because of that, you get the extra yards. Like your mentality has always been thrusting forward. And
Yeah.
now with this astrology, you've taken, what you do, then you take it to the next level. Like you're sharing your gift, and you're like the stuff you're telling me sounds like you played with this chart for more than 15 minutes,
Yeah.
it seems like you really broke it down and like and know the stuff. And so like the gift that you're giving to the universe now is awareness.
Oh.
You said before to me about this awakening and understanding and being sensitive. I've learned my greatest gift is the gift of tears.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I
Yeah.
had a hard time when I broke up with someone back in 2003. We broke up for the right reasons. She's a wonderful girl, but we just went our separate ways. And I was walking through Sunrise. I just moved down from Florida, from New York, so I could watch more Dolphins football. And everything happens for a reason. We broke up. I'm walking in the parking lot of where Doris is marketed, and I'm crying. Why is this happening to me? I'm such a nice guy. Why is it happening? And on the ground, there was a business card that said, "Your windows have been washed."
Yeah.
Now, one of my clients was doing personal makeup, and she says the eyes are the window to the soul. So I always took that analogy as your eyes are to the windows of the soul. You cry to clean your vision because you don't see things the way you're supposed to. The physical human world, the earth, has corrupted you.
Wow. So this is beautiful Scorpio moon Scorpio language. So because it is, Scorpio is about the urge. This perfect honesty is because if we don't have the courage to feel our woundedness, we don't cry the tears to let it go. We don't generate the tears to be able to let it go. And if we can, that's the healing. That's the transformation.
Yeah, so I have two necklaces that I wear when I get on stage lately. One is a big sun, the other is a rainbow. How do you make a rainbow, Ricky?
Rain.
And so I make it rain.
Wow. Yeah. And so I think that's a great target, for the effect of your music, right? Is if you can, that's the aim. If you can reach people to those tears that are frozen inside. Okay. Right.
Yeah. I've known. I'm gonna get some rainbow acting going right now because I feel inside me. I'm like, I've had so much experience, and I've looked at everything from. I've worked in pizzerias. I've worked in sales. I've worked in DJing and strip clubs. I've done everything. Dude. I worked for the Dolphin Stadium when I moved down because I couldn't afford paying to go to the games. So I worked as a ticket taker. And it was just I did whatever I had to do, and I've worked many different jobs, so I have perspectives differently. And I think that the one thing I've understood is it's me being honest, which has made me friends along the path. I've had people say they wanted to kill me at jobs, because sometimes I'm a little aloof, because I'm in the clouds, like my thought process and everything.
Yeah, that's the air. Yeah.
And I don't have the earth. But this one guy, Peter Charles, a big dude from the Bronx, he said, "I'm gonna freaking take you out," because he was pissed at me. He ended up being one of my best friends, saying, "Dude, if you ever need anything, you can count on me." And it's one of those things that I just need to be more of me, but then respect everything around me. Me being me, I wrote a song about this too. It requires twofold process. Open your mind and let the world inside. So I got to open my mind and let the world see what I'm thinking, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
Yes. But in that process, when you open your mind and let the world inside, I can see what other people are thinking. So the lyric starts out, "I furnish the weapon with which you destroy me. Now these voices in my head are starting to annoy me. Ripping and pulling and ripping. I ain't ever done acid, but I feel like I'm tripping. Deceptively deceiving. My mind's got me believing that there's no way of achieving mutual understanding. I'm not trying to be your perfection. I'm only trying to make a connection. So come get naked, open your mind, and let the world inside."
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's your chart singing. That's your chart singing.
Yeah. That's woo, man. Giving you virtual hugs, dude.
Yeah, thank you, man. Really, wow. What a wonderful
Yeah.
What a wonderful morning, man. Thank you for this
And
gift.
you didn't even know it was me. Like, that's funny because we text back and forth on the phone, like, you know, when I was like, after I signed up. But then I guess you didn't put the wizard cast with Johnny Appleseed.
I didn't. Yeah, I did
Yeah.
not.
Which I'm glad you didn't, because then you didn't have any predetermined like thoughts doing the reading. It was just a straight up honest feel. This is what I got going on. Like, and then, oh my gosh, magical surprise, happy accident. It's Johnny Appleseed, you know?
Wow. Thank you so much. And please, let's stay in touch, because I like, you got big things coming and I want to be a part of them. So
Well, here's the thing. I want to help you the way you're helping me. So, you know, I want to offer you, you know, the same way you've given, you know, the access, consciousness access, you know, you gave the free seminar the other day for an hour or whatever, you know, I'm going to give you an hour free of my time consulting to do whatever I need to do to help you with your voice, because you're doing the right things. The RW stuff, like you're on the right path, because I got a bottle, like I got a cabinet full of pillows over there, right? And
yeah.
it's just disgusting. A movie I'm working on, the movie that I want you to be a part of, that I asked you about 9 years ago, was, it's called Future 86, and the idea behind it is we are building this life that we're not planning. We're just pulling the bulldozers and we're bringing tools out. And we're hammering and nailing, and then we're saying, "What the fuck? What the hell just happened here? What do we build?" Because we're not making a blueprint, or we're not listening to the blueprint that's already been given to us. And so the idea behind it is that, you know, we're so easy to go to the doctor because we're in that cycle. So easy to go to school because we're in that cycle. That's what everyone's been doing. But if you listen to Earl Nightingale, I don't know if you've listened to any of his work, you know, he talks about the fact that as children, we go to school and we learn much of our knowledge from our friends that are unknowledgeable. You know, we try to please those people that are learning with us. And so the cycle of life keeps on going forward, but we wonder why wars keep on happening. We wonder why.
So two things. One, I have a 12:30, so I have to go.
Sure.
No, but two, what you're saying is the third house, and Gemini, right? And it's funny, like, we're attracted to teachings that resonate with us. And so Venus is where we create rapport. The third house is siblings, but it's also the people that we hang out with, right? And also Venus can be our need to please. And so one of the things that you're working on specifically related to this is this, right? How can I find like-minded people? Because if we don't find like-minded people, we're learning from the people that we don't even really like, right?
Yes.
And that doesn't work. But yeah, we'll pick up this conversation. Yeah.
I'll text me when you get done with this. But the one last question I have for you: you told me that we choose our parents. Where did you get that concept from?
I got it from astrology. Just looking at charts and realizing that a lot of the times the sun and the moon really correspond to the experiences that we have with our parents.
That's interesting. Okay, we'll talk more later. Thank you so much. When you get a chance, like, send me the copy. I want to like marinate with it, a little bit. But let's talk, because I love you, man. You're the best. Like, you blow my mind. You're my shaman. I appreciate you. Thank you for your existence.
Takes one to know one. Seriously, there's good things coming, man. I can't wait.
Respect. Hey, not good things, Ricky. Great things.
Amen to that.
All right. Peace.
All right. Peace.